Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. We are your hosts, Linda and Jim McKissack. If you know our story, you know that we went from over $600,000 in debt to having financial freedom. We share some of the insights and practical tips that we've learned over the last 30 years for achieving financial freedom, building wealth, and building an extraordinary life. Let's get started with today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Jim McKissack.
Hey, Jim, we're here again to talk about another episode of why financial freedom is important, why freedoms are just important, period. We're not just tied to financial freedoms. We just want all kinds of freedoms, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're just an average couple who really decided a long time ago that we wanted above average results out of our life. And so we decided we're not going to be someone like a Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, but we can take our average lives and make it extraordinary. And so hopefully this will help you do the same thing for your life. So today we're going to talk about the difference between good debt and bad debt, because I know a lot of people out there are risk adverse on debt, and that's understandable. Matter of fact, we love Dave Ramsey. We think he's amazing. We love everything that he does. We've been to several of his
helped so many people.
God bless him. He deserves all the success because he's just changed so many lives. And we've been to his entrepreneurship program and things like that. Had many opportunity to attend his programs, love them, and wouldn't advise against anything that he has to say. But when you start moving into building wealth, I don't know. Does he address building wealth? I don't even know. He address getting rid of it?
Doing it with cash.
Doing it with cash. Okay. So by the way, if that's one way to do it. And by the way, that may be the way you choose to do it. And I think a lot of people, I know we could have gone this way after our $600,000 debt episode that we got ourselves into. We could have been very scared to do anything with debt again.
Well, the best debt is no debt.
Right. Absolutely.
But there is two different kinds. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt is the form of owing money and paying interest on money that's not an appreciating asset that someone else is not paying for you, that you're paying for yourself. For instance, credit cards.
Okay.
Dave Ramsey, I'll never forget whenever I signed up to go get certified through Dave Ramsey, and we're talking on the telephone, and they told me that I think the price was $3,000 or something like that.
Yeah, this is funny.
And I said, okay, wait just a second. I reached in my back pocket, got my wallet out, and started calling off the number on a MasterCard, and the person on the other end just started dying laughing. I said, what's so funny? And he said, we don't take credit cards. He said, send us a check or cash or whatever, but we don't take credit cards. And that's one of the main things we don't. By the way, you should probably cut that up. And
of course, we pay off our credit cards every month, but he didn't know, or he or she didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I thought that was pretty funny. But, that is the bad debt, and consumer debt that you have that, that you don't pay off monthly.
So like would car payments and things like that be in there, Jimmy? Probably.
It could be. Yeah. Most people that we know that have money pay cash for their cars.
Yeah.
And it's normally because the interest rate on a car debt is more than the average interest rate that's out there, in the marketplace.
Okay.
Now that's changed over the years because interest rates got so low and car sales were slow. Now you're seeing as car sales are really picking up in demand. They're hard to get right now. Mm-hmm. The interest rates are going up and stuff on that. And so,
which by the way, honestly, when we talk about ways that you could find money for in real estate investing, pulling out one of your cars that you don't use and selling it is a great way. They're paying people more than what they paid for the car for their cars right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, good debt is having debt on appreciating assets that somebody else is paying off for you. So as you're an investor and you invest the money, which is the down payment and the rehab money, you leverage your money over time. And so you can own and control several assets. Whereas if you if we didn't do it this way, and each of us had to save up $300,000 or so to go buy a house
Yeah.
to live in or for an investment property, how long would it take us to go do that? And that's the deal. So as an investor, real estate is a very good, tool that you can go use to build a wealthy life through leveraging your money with a 20 or 25 or 30% down.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And so those are good debts.
Hello. Thank you for listening to the Everything Life and Financial Freedom podcast. For transcripts, resources, and more, visit the episode page on the podcast website at everythinglifeandfinancialfreedom.com. You can also download our Freedom Number worksheet. This worksheet will help you determine the amount of passive income you need to generate each year to sustain the lifestyle you have or the lifestyle you want when you no longer wish to work or simply want the freedom of your time and your money. So what would you say? I hear people, we've never used this, but I hear people talk about hard money lending. Where would you put that on good debt or bad debt?
Good debt if it's a good deal and you can get in and get out quick.
So I don't know a lot about hard money lending because you and I've never used it. Maybe we'll find somebody and bring them on the podcast that knows a little bit more about that. But
it's expensive money.
It's expensive money, right? I do know that part. But do they get their money back pretty quick?
Yeah, they usually get it back very quick whenever.
So why would somebody use hard money?
Because they need it to do a deal quick.
Okay.
So that's one reason why they would do it. And so they need the money for the down payment or something quick on it. And then they're going to refinance it and they pay back. And usually on hard money, you pay a high interest rate, plus you pay a point up to 3 points. For the use of that money.
So then what about, because we would, instead of us doing that, what we did is a line of credit.
Yeah.
So a line of credit could be good debt because it makes you go in as cash offers. Would you consider that good debt or bad debt? I'd probably say good debt.
Depends on how you use it. As long as you're investing it in something that you can pay it back short term, a line of credit is still a little higher interest rate than a normal mortgage or a loan like that. You're not going to go find a line of credit typically for 3 or 3.5%. And most lines of credit are 2 to 3 points above whatever the mortgage rate is.
Got it. Okay. So one thing too that we've heard about, and I don't know which side of the fence this one falls on, but I've heard of people doing methods where they use exclusively other people's money. Do those people typically not have any of their own money in, or what? How do they do that?
Depends. A lot of people will trade off money for knowledge, and so you might have a group of people that put together an investment pool where they all invest money in there, and you have one manager of the pool that does the work portion of it. Well, he gets a piece of the action without having to put any cash into it because he's basically trading off money for work. And so that's one way we see a lot of investors do it. Then a lot of times you'll see people that'll come in there with investors and stuff, and they'll say, if you go out and you go out and do all the work, I'll put up the money and then we'll refinance it and drag my money back out.
And really, so for investors that don't have the knowledge, that's probably not a bad idea for them to loan their money for, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's
if it's your only way you're going to do it.
If you've got to make sure you got a good partner and make sure that
they know what they're talking about.
They know what they're doing and those type of things.
Yeah. So I would
honesty and integrity, all those.
Okay. And so I guess, did we talk about student loans? I can't remember. Student loans would be bad debt because that's consumer loan, or
it's a consumer loan.
Unless you're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer, maybe they can pay it back. I don't know. We didn't do student loans either because we didn't go to college, but.
Well, student loans could be bad debt, depending on how we set it up, and if you're using it to further your education and you've got a means to get a good job to go pay it back, then I guess it could be good debt. So it's kind of one of those toss-up things.
Yeah. Okay. So what else would you say about good debt, bad debt? Because I think the issue is if people hear a lot that debt is bad, period, all debt is bad, it could be a stumbling block that could keep them from building wealth faster or or at all, period.
Well, if we would have taken Dave Ramsey's advice and paid cash for everything, we wouldn't have a portfolio of 60 or 70 homes paid for.
Yeah. And I remember when
know.
we wrote our book Hold, we actually asked Dave if he would do a forward. And he said, I can't do that. He said, for somebody like you guys, this works because we were well on our way of building wealth and we had great cash flow. He said, but for the
Masses.
well, and for who he attracts,
Yeah.
And for the masses, our approach isn't the best approach because they got to get out of that credit card debt and stuff first.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the main thing whenever we start talking to people about investing and stuff. We look at for a budget and we look at the home front and see, what does your debt look like? There's some things you should probably get paid off before you start investing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. If somebody's sitting out there and they've got a lot of bad debt, but they want to start doing some of this and be able to use good debt, or what we're defining as good debt and bad debt, what would be the beginning steps you'd tell them to do?
Depends on how many. I mean, I've seen people with 5 credit cards that are maxed out.
Yeah.
And there's one of them that's got a little bit of better interest rate than the rest of them. And the monthly payment on it's a little bit lower. So I would start with the lowest payment and start doubling up on paying that off. So I'd get a second job. I'd do whatever I took to get that paid off. And then I'd take the money I was paying on that credit card and I would apply it to the next credit card till I got all 5 of them paid off. And then I'd start saving money to go buy an investment property.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think we get asked a lot, hey, I've got these credit cards. I've got this debt. Should I still go ahead and buy a property? And Jim and I are both people that went in the 80s and 90s when the gradually and suddenly happened in our life and we had to sell a business for $600,000 less than we owed against it. The thing we saw that was a common denominator is almost everybody that lost everything and wound up having to file bankruptcy, which we didn't have to do because we didn't have that much bad debt. So that was a bonus for us not having a bunch of bad debt. We just had to sell a business for too cheap. They were over leveraged and they were in way worse shape than us. So that's another reason. So people come to us all the time and say, should I pay off the credit cards or whatever? We would always say, get rid of that bad debt before you ever start using good debt.
Yeah.
I mean, don't ever be over leveraged. That's a big mistake. And honestly, that's where we've seen almost anybody who made mistakes in investing to make them.
Yeah. Also, they wait till the end of the month to see if they have any money left over to invest or to put into a savings account. And usually at the end of the month, you're usually hoping for next month's money to help pay for some of the stuff from the month before. And so, getting used to getting money smart and start taking some money off of the top that you put on and learn how to live on a smaller percentage of your income.
Yeah. One of the things I would say too is, no one succeeds alone. And so no matter where you are as you're listening to this, and you may think, well, this is ridiculous. I'm never going to get any kind of financial freedom because I'm just smothered in debt. What you got to do is find people who were just like you, who are in the same situations. And if they can do it, you can do it too. And matter of fact, that's the first thing I would do is I would look for groups or programs. Dave Ramsey's is a fabulous one. Start there, read every one of his books. Go plug in, pay for his program and do it if you have to.
Yeah, go through Financial Peace.
Yeah, because I think it's called Financial Peace University or something. Go through that because they've already researched everything. They know exactly how to get you out of that bad debt. And then if you're somebody that says, okay, now I want to build wealth faster than what Dave Ramsey would be able to have you do it because you've got to do it only with cash, then you can jump over and listen to our podcast or read our book Hold or those kind of things. But that would definitely be the starting point. And don't lose hope. What I love about Dave's book, because he talks about the snowball effect with your credit cards, like you just mentioned, is I read it and we didn't even have credit card debt or anything like that, but I got so much hope. And I think what people lose when they're just swamped with bad debt is they lose hope.
Yeah. You didn't just have hope. You went and applied that principle.
That's true.
On one of our investment properties.
Yeah. I couldn't, I didn't have any credit cards to pay it off. So I thought, well, let me try this on an investment property and see if this snowball effect will work on paying off our lowest rental house. And it did.
I think it might've been the first one we ever paid off.
I think it was. Close, it absolutely was. It absolutely was. So, I would say, don't lose hope because, there's somebody out there that, and even though our $600,000 in debt, Jimmy, it wasn't bad debt. It was a unexpected that happened to us, right? I mean, us having debt on a business that we eventually had to sell for less than we owed against it wasn't bad debt. It was bad timing, and it was a economic downturn that we couldn't have predicted, right?
Right. But if we would have had the money to pay cash for it on the front end, we wouldn't have had the debt, and we would have had enough income to keep surviving. So the company itself had too much debt
Yeah.
to weather the storm, of a bad economy and a downturn in the economy.
Right.
And
which is what sent
so-
us to reading the books and learning about building wealth. And that's another reason to want to build wealth, is if you've ever gotten in that kind of situation like we were in, we wanted to make sure the next turnaround or the next gradually and suddenly that happens in life, we were in a different position. And quite honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because number one, we would have never gone into that business if we'd had to have cash to do it.
Yeah.
But it did teach us that now if something like that were to happen, we'd be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can turn that situation completely around and let that be the fuel that fires you up to do something different in life. Don't let it be the kick in the gut that keeps you down, but the one that gives you the chip on the shoulder that says, man, I'm not ever going to be in this position again. If a downturn happens, if a COVID happens, if a gradually and suddenly, whatever it is in life, a life's unexpected happens, I'm going to do this wealth building thing and create financial freedom, because I don't want to ever be in this shape again.
We didn't have a lot of credit cards on the front end.
No.
And then once we did get credit cards, we really got into the habit of paying them off every 30 days. And that was, basically interest free and stuff, but you got to have the discipline and have the income to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I would say, number one, find the programs and other people who have been in your situation, and learn everything you can possibly learn about what were the steps they took to get out of that bad debt. And then just know that that's your step one.
Mm-hmm.
And then step two after that will be to learn how to go get good debt and appreciate staying away from bad debt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And leverage yourself and get big.
Yeah, absolutely. And leverage the bank's money and other people's money as good debt, but not to the point where you put yourself in jeopardy with bad debt.
Yep.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So Jim, another good episode. And remember, if you have not, please hit subscribe below. And we would love for you to give us a 5-star review on any podcast platform that you listen to. And be sure and pass this podcast along to anyone that you know of that freedoms, all kinds of freedoms, and financial freedom for sure is important to them. Maybe you're interested in freedom of time, money, and relationships. I know that's what Jim and I focus on a lot, is how do we make sure we always have freedoms and our freedoms don't get cut off in any way. And so pass this podcast along to anyone that you think that might benefit from these episodes. And we'll see you on the next episode. So Jim, see you next time.
All righty.
See you then.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this podcast with others. The greatest compliment you can give us is to leave a 5-star review. And please feel free to reach out to us at info@lindamckissack.com. We would love to hear from you about any ideas, topics, or guests to include on our podcast. So see you next time.